Hi, everybody who's waiting. Welcome to our SpamTitan Ask Me Anything webinar. We're just going to give it another few minutes. We can see we've a good number of attendees there so far, but let's just maybe give it 2 more minutes to see if other people will join. So just bear with us and we shall be back online.
Just while we're waiting as well, for anybody who is online already, feel free to pop in any of your questions into the questions aspect of the webinar panel. So we'll be keeping an eye on the questions coming in there, and we will answer them as they come in. And generally, we do see quite a few coming in, which is great. So we will go through them one by one as well. So feel free to start popping them in there if you want, and we'll start answering. I see there's some coming in that we have already, and as they come in, we'll start fielding them as well. So feel free to start popping them in there.
Great, Derek. I think we'll kick it off. So thanks everybody for taking the time out of your busy days to join us. So this is the latest in our series of webinars that we're running across all our different product offerings. Today's session is called SpamTitan Ask Me Anything. And as the name suggests, we want you to ask us anything in relation to SpamTitan. Other questions we might know the answers to, but I'd be pretty confident that Derek will know every single question in relation to SpamTitan. So Derek is our Director of Technology Operations. He's been with Titan HQ, I think, for 11 or 12 years at this stage. So he knows everything SpamTitan related. My name is Catherine McGrath. I am the Director of Customer Success at Titan HQ. So obviously we send out 2 emails as invitations for this session. So we have already got some questions submitted. So I think what we'll do, Derek, is we'll go through those questions first, and then myself and yourself can look at any other questions that come in, and we'll see to get through them all. What I will say is, if there is anything that we feel is too specific to maybe an individual or a company's individual setup, we may not answer it because we might think that it's not a good use of this time for everybody else, but do still ask the question because we can get back to you separately on a one-to-one basis. So please do ask what you want to ask. So without further ado, I think we'll crack on, Derek. So I see you have the UI bot up there, which is great. So just first question we've asked here, is there a way to test pattern filters against emails, or a way to see how pattern filters affect emails? For example, upload a false negative and test against this.
Good question. So with pattern filters, they can be created at a per domain group, and at a global level as well. So if I just pop over straight to them, so on the filter rules and pattern filtering tabs, you'll see them created in here. So if I look in here, I can see this is looking for the value spam, applying to the body, and it's a hard block. So a hard block means that it'll add a score of 100, and the default threshold is generally 5. So when you say hard block, you're making sure that this definitely gets blocked. So to see the pattern filter that triggers, you'll see there's a test ID beside it. So there's 5 and 1 in there, and each time you add 1, that will increment. So there will be a unique a UUID, you could say, for the pattern filter. When a pattern filter triggers on a mail, so if I come here to reporting and history, in here, the reporting and history tab, as you probably already know, this shows you every single mail that touches SpamTitan and whatever happened to it, whether I can see here is geo blocked, this is a clean mail, spam mail, RBL blocked, relay denied, whatever happens, it'll show up in here, and you can search through them as well. So If a pattern filter triggers and you have a hard block, it'll be a score of 100. So a quick way to find them, and there may not be any in here at the moment, but if I go is greater than, and if I said 80, so anything that scores above 80, it's very rare to see anything scoring that extreme high without a pattern filter in place. So if I clicked apply there, you can see there's none here, so pattern filter didn't trigger, but that would show you all that triggered on a pattern filter. But if there was one, if I go back to is any, if there was a mail in here that triggered a pattern filter, what you can do is if you click on that mail, it'll open up this pop-up screen. And if you go to view source, you can look in here on the X-spam status. So we give you a lot of granular information on the mail that's coming through, which is very, very powerful for you. It's rare enough that you would see that if you've ever used the, say, Microsoft Message Trace in Office 365. It can be quite hard to find things in there sometimes and to get the details, but we give you the full details of the mail. So in here in the X-spam status headers, you'll see the score, but what you'll also see is the test that triggered. So in these tests, you will actually see pattern, and I believe it would be pattern underscore and then the ID. So it'll show you the ID of the pattern filter that triggered within here. So one of these will be unique. It'll say, I believe it's pattern, then an underscore and the ID, and that ID will match up to the pattern filter ID on the filter rules pattern filterings tab.
Just Derek, while you're on pattern filtering there, although it's just a question that's come in, can a pattern filter be auto-created based on email?
It can't. It can't. It does need to be manually created. It does need to be manually created because you have to be. I'd always say be there. It's a very powerful tool. The pattern filter is a very good tool, but you can put in. If I look in here and click on add, so you can say contains. So that'll add the words or the string of text that you want to block. But you can also use regular expression. And if you're not used to regex, I'd always say run it past our support team before adding it, because in my support days when I was on the help desk, I did come across some cases where there's pattern filters added that would match everything. So say if you put in /* or $*, that is saying match everything. So you might put in your string of text and then $*. What you're actually doing is you could end up blocking all your mail. So if you're using regular expression for these pattern filters, absolutely bring it through our support team. We'll validate it for you and we'll test it out for you as well. But it can't be automatically added, mainly because it is such a powerful tool. It's removing that human error aspect of it.
Okay, that's great, Derek. Thanks. Just gonna. Is there, just onto quarantines now and history reports, is there a way in history reports or quarantine to use a contains criteria in the filter, i.e. sender email address contains, something inverted commas, to get all sender from a specific domain?
Yeah. So the wildcard searches. So yes, that's what I would use all the time because as you know, there'll be a lot of mail in here. So what you can do is if you know it's the recipient or the sender, as you said, I believe the example said the sender, what you can do is in the sender, there's two wildcards. So the wildcard is either the asterisk or star symbol or percentage sign. So I can go star, say, let me have a quick look down here. We'll see from, let's pick one here. So let's see. So I see here. So I'm not going to try to spell it all out. I'm just going M-A-N-G. So if I go sender star, M-A-N-G star, and click apply, we can see that pulls in that. So you can do the wildcard searches. So either star or percentage sign will show you that. And if I change that again, let's say to geo, because I know there's ones in here, click apply, we can see here it's looking for geoblocking.com. So you can put in as much as you want. You can wildcard any aspect of the sender, recipient, subject line, and so on.
Brilliant. That's great, Derek. Thank you. Is there a way to write a pattern filter to soft block any incoming emails that do not have a to header?
It's a good question. So pattern filters look for something. So it doesn't look for nothing. say, you could say. So it doesn't look for a blank. But I do like that idea. I do like that idea. What will do that? I will bring that to the dev team. I'll put that in as a feature
Feature
request. I
request. Yeah,
do like that idea. Yeah.
great. Our next question, how do I automatically block emails that are sent to invalid usernames using my domain? A good chunk of the emails that land in quarantine are to fake or incorrect usernames that are junking up the review of quarantine messages and inflating our user counts.
Yeah. So this would be, say, dictionary attacks. So this is when a spammer, they're chancing it. What they're doing is they're just doing a dictionary attack. They're starting off maybe at aa@titanhq.com, a b, a c, and then just trying a number of
Yeah,
different names to try and see what's going on there. So the way to combat that is using recipient verification. So if I come here, system setup, mail relay, this is where all your domains will be listed. So when you're adding a domain, or you already have your domains in place, you can edit your domain as well. So if I edit this domain here, you'll see recipient verification. So we support a number of flavors of this. If you're using Office 365 or Exchange or anything like that, we generally recommend using dynamic recipient verification. And the verification server will be the same server as your destination server. So you'd simply pop that in there as well. What recipient verification does is when a mail comes to SpamTitan, we'll send a query, it's a very quick query to the mail server, to 365, to say, is this a valid mailbox? 365 will tell us, no, it's not, and we'll drop the mail. And it's dropped as recipient, invalid recipient. So recipient verification is definitely the way to go there. That protects you from exactly what you were experiencing there, and helps keep your license count very accurate as well. But we do support a number of other flavors from LDAP, LDAP as well. And if it's a small domain with 5 or 6 users or less, and they don't change that often or don't change at all, you can actually list the users as well for that specific domain.
great, Jerry, thanks. So question now about reporting. So under the reporting tab, stroke mail history, there is a field for entering the inverted commas sender email address. Often I don't know the full address of the sender, only their email domain. Is it
Mhm.
possible in future to add the ability to search by just the domain?
Yep, that'll be similar to what we saw earlier on. So you'd use the wildcards in that case as well. So you'd use, say, star, let's say google.com, and that will search for that particular domain for you.
Perfect, great. A question now in relation to attachment filtering. Could there be a way to exclude a sending domain? For example, block all HTML attachments, but allow one or more domains to send the HTML attachments through to us.
Yeah, it's a good question. There isn't if directly from the attachments tab, but what you can do, so there isn't an exemption for this particular aspect of it. Mainly because attachments, you do generally want to be careful. But what you can do, if you know the sender and you really trust them, and I say really trust them, what you can do is you could add the sender's IP addresses. So they're sending mail servers IPs. If they're sending from the same IPs, you can add them to the IP allow list. So that's here in the system setup, mail relay IP controls. You'll see allowed IP addresses. You can add their mail server, their sending mail server's IP or IPs to this. Now, I always err on the side of caution before adding an IP to an allow list, because the IP allow list bypasses everything else as well. It's not just bypassing the attachment filtering, it is bypassing before that. So it triggers before it gets to that aspect of it. Most settings do have an individual allow list or bypass list. The attachment filtering doesn't yet, but I do know the guys are working on that. So if you do have a specific sender like that, you could do that as well.
Great, thanks, Derek. I don't know if this is more of a product roadmap question, but I shall ask you anyway. In future, could there be an API that passes a user's quarantine through to a folder in their Outlook so that we could eliminate them having to log in to SpamTitan to search for false positives?
So what you can do there, so if it's a particular user or even a domain you want to do that for, so you'd get the daily quarantine report, and you can action that from your inbox from the quarantine report. So you may not have that enabled by the sounds of it. So on the anti-spam engine domain policies, you can edit this and enable quarantine reports. So the end users will receive a daily digest of mail that's in their quarantine, and directly from their inbox, they can deliver, they can add the sender to the allow list, or they can delete the mail if it's a correct block as well. All that helps feed the Bayesian database and SpamTitan as well. But what you can do is, instead of, say, quarantining the mail, what you could do is, sorry, I'm thinking as I'm talking. What you could do here is, instead of quarantining spam mail, you could say pass and tag. So what pass and tag will do is, any mail that we do identify as spam, we will tag the subject line with whatever tag you want. This is the default aspect that's added. So you could add this to the mail. So we'll still pass it on to the inbox, but we'll tag that in the subject line. And you could create a filter rule in your Outlook or in your 365 or Exchange, whatever you're using, to look for this in the subject line and place it into a particular folder for your users. So that would be another way of doing it. I'd always recommend the quarantine report, because it's not getting into the inbox. That's it. You're keeping it outside of your network. You're keeping it outside of your end users. So I'd always recommend using quarantining and the quarantine report. But if you really want the mail to come through and put into a particular folder, you could do pass and tag, and then create a filter rule to place those tagged mails into a particular folder.
Brilliant. Great. Thanks, Derek. So somebody just wondering regarding pattern filtering, is it, instead of having to type words like subject body into a text box, is there a way to have a drop-down menu instead? Is that something we're looking at?
Could you repeat that, please, Catherine? Sorry.
That's probably a feature request. So instead of having to type words, subjects, the body into a text box, there should be a drop-down menu instead in which to pick. So I'm not sure I understand that question.
Might be for the reporting tab here, or the reporting history tab, maybe.
It's saying for pattern filtering. Yeah, it's saying, the question is saying is, so in relation to pattern filtering, okay. For example, instead of having to type words like subject or the subject of words or the body into a text box, there should be a drop-down menu.
Oh, okay, so I got you. So what I'd say, okay, what's been asked here is about the headers. So apply to headers. What we do here is, you would specify what headers you want to put. So say the subject line,
okay,
or the two aspects. So what I'd say, what you're asking there is, could we put in a drop down in here to select those for you? Again, that would be a feature request. But we'll get
the best
that
way
in,
on a feature request is to go via support, is it? To submit it via the support portal?
Exactly. So if I go to titanhq.com, just to show everybody how to get to the support portal, you come in here, come to our support, and then SpamTitan. And you can see that for each of our products, you'll see each one. And what you would do in here is, you would select here, you could search for the particular aspect of it, or you could submit a ticket. And once you submit a ticket, you will get a drop down. And if I come in here, you'll see feature request. So that will go directly into the team. A feature request we put into our own internal systems as well, and you'll be given a feature request ID that you can look for an update at any time for.
Brilliant. That's great, Derek. So that's actually all the questions that were submitted previously. Excellent. So let's, obviously we have a lot of questions that have come in, so why don't we take a look at those there, so Derek, if you want to.
I see them there. So I see the first one, any plans for tighter integration with Microsoft 365? Absolutely. The answer there is yes. And we do have a roadmap that our team can share with you. If you want to reach out, we can share that with you, but we do absolutely. We have a number of aspects coming out there. We even have another product called SpamTitan that is extremely tight with Office 365, Microsoft 365, I should say. and also for licensing. It is something that we're very actively working on there, Aaron, so we can definitely look into that for you. Yeah, there's
I
a
see the
great
next question
number of
there from
questions.
Jim.
Mm.
The one there on quarantine tabs from Jim. That sounds like something he could submit via feature request. So just how we just showed there. So, he's saying if it would be able to sort by all the
Mm.
top bar topics. Like that's a feature request, Derek, is it?
It would be, yeah.
Yeah.
So at the moment you can select for the date and the score, and then you can search the to and from and the subject line in there. But what I'd say, what you're asking there, Jim, is can you sort by these as well? Not by default, but again, you can do the searches that will bring them up for you like that. But absolutely, that would be a feature request, Jim. Feel free to pop that in, and we'll get the ID to you.
Great. Thanks, Derek. So just scrolling down here.
So I
So
see
help with
there,
adding new
yeah.
users.
Help our new users.
Just
Should
Nick is asking.
add through SpamTitan portal or by going to the website and choosing forgot password. So for users, so SpamTitan works on the domain level. So you add in the domains that you want to filter for, and we'll filter for them. And all users fall under the domain policy. So user policies don't need to be created. So user policies get created automatically. So when you've got the quarantine reports enabled, once users start interacting with that, if they add an allow list or they click bring me to my quarantine now, they'll actually get auto signed in, single signed on, or auto signed in to their portal in SpamTitan. They won't need to log in. A user policy is automatically created for that user then. There's that auto sign in is valid for each quarantine report. So the last quarantine, click on that and you'll be auto signed in. So there's no actual need to create individual users. Now, if you're creating administrators, you're correct in what you're saying there, Nick. You would create the administrator account within SpamTitan there, and we'd always recommend using the forgot password. So nobody else has the password, only that user or that admin, and they can change their password on first login and enable 2FA and so on as well. So yeah, good question, Nick.
Great. Rob is just wondering, is there a way to put two email addresses on the same quarantine report rather than having two separate reports? So for example, if a person has two email addresses associated with them, like after a name change, for example, marriage, divorce, etc.
Yeah. So what you can do there, if you're on our private cloud or gateway and aspect like that, what you can do is on the quarantine and aliases tab, what you can do in here is, this is a demo system, so it'll fail out there, but you can enable that there. And what this does is, if I click on the blue question mark here, this will show you. So what you can do there is you can sync up via LDAP, and that will bring in all your aliases. So you'll have a primary email address and all the aliases of that in there. And that quarantine will be amalgamated and sent to one inbox. What you can also do, Rob, is you can manually create these if there's only certain ones you want to do it for. You can add in the primary email address, and then you can add in their secondary or their alias as well. So just the primary email address will receive the quarantine report. I do that for myself. We do that for ourselves here in Titan HQ because I have a Titan HQ email address, webtitan.com, spamtitan.com, marktitan.com, encrypttitan.com, and all of those. So we have them amalgamated into one quarantine report for myself and for everybody else as well. So yeah, absolutely, Rob, that can be done. If you're on our, say, ShareCloud platform as well, our support team can do that for you. So if you just let the team know that what you're looking for and the aliases you'd like to add, feel free to reach out. We can help you out there.
Brilliant. Haroon is just wondering, when blocking an email, should that be added on group admin level or just administrator? What is the industry standard?
Yeah, it's a good question, Haroon. It's really, the industry standard is, to say there's a standard in there, I'd be lying, to be honest. It mainly depends on the requirements. If it's an address you want to block for all your customers, at the administrator level is to do it. If it's a request from your customer and they want to block it for them and their domains, the domain group or domain level is the best place to put it in there. From the quarantine reports that end users receive, if they add something to the allow list or block list or anything from the quarantine report, that goes into that recipient only allow and block list. It doesn't go into a domain or a group or an admin level. It goes into that end user. So generally, it depends where the request comes from. If it's yourselves that you want to block for everybody, the administrator level. If it's from your customer, it'll be at the customer level, or domain group or domain admin, and the end user obviously would be, you can add it to the end user as well if required. There wouldn't necessarily be an industry standard, but if there were particular ones you want to block for everybody, that should be at the admin level.
Great. So Musarat, and apologies if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly, is wondering, Derek, if you could just elaborate more on the XSpam status,
Yeah.
and what the things in it mean.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, Haroon had another one there. Is there an online guide for pattern creation? So I'll actually field the two of them because we'll go to the same place for that. So the answer to both is no problem. So the guide for pattern filtering, if you go to docs.titanhq.com, this will give you a full guide on SpamTitan in here as well, and kind of how-tos and different aspects in there. So there's a handy search in here. If I search for pattern, sorry, I cannot type and talk at the same time. So you'll see in here, search for creating a pattern filter. So if I click on that, this will bring you through a step-by-step guide, Haroon, on how to create a pattern filter. It goes through all the different aspects of it, and it drills down into different levels of it. So pattern settings, creating meta rule pattern filters, and then the next section in here leads me on to Maserat's email, or not email, sorry, question. Can you elaborate more on XSpam status and what these things mean? Absolutely. So in here, you'll see spam tests utilized by SpamTitan. So there are large numbers of tests in here. So there's, just put a number on it, I'd be guessing, but there's hundreds of thousands, there's loads that can trigger in there. So a number of them are built by ourselves, and we also incorporate some third-party spam rule sets, some Spam Assassin and different providers like that as well, because to get a full round picture of it. So in this section, you can see here, so if I go in built-in rule sets, so we can see in here, there's a large number. We kind of give a one-liner explanation on them all. So generally, if I come back here to reporting and history, because this is a really good question, and it's very good for troubleshooting and gaining information. So if we come in here, we'll see a number of different, I've been dealing with these for years, so by looking at them, I have a good idea of what each one of them are. But you can see MIME HTML only. That means there's only HTML within the body of the mail, no DNS from, so there's no round DNS from address. There's a number of different ones in there. But if there's ones you're not sure about and you're wonder what that is, what you can do is you can copy it from here. And if you come back to our built-in rule sets, if I go back out here, and we can see CAM. So as you can see, the one that I just copied started with CAM. So this will show you the CAM rule sets. And what you can do is you can do a Control F in here, because there is a lot, so you'll be going through them individually. But you can do a Control F, and that'll bring you straight through, and it'll show you kind of a one-liner, a few words example of what that means. Now, these are continuously being updated and added to and removed to and edited, and there's a lot going on there. So this is updated as fast as we can. So we're pushing out to all systems, and then our documentation team is bringing it in here. So if it isn't in there when you do search, probably means it's a brand new one or one that came out recently, but it will be in there in the next day or two. And if it's a third-party one, a quick Google search would bring you up results on it as well. But we do try to keep this as updated as the product updates the spam rule test. But as you can imagine, it is continuously being updated because everybody knows spam catching, virus filtering, all of that. It is trying to keep that one step ahead all the time. So it's continuously evolving.
Great. Pit Amber was just asking there, but users aren't allowed to release the blocked by the emails that are blocked by content filter emails. Is there any way of achieving this?
Yeah, good question. So in the quarantine and settings tab, and then advanced, in here you can select what you want to be allowed, what you want to allow the end users to do from their quarantine report. So what you can do in here is, these are the defaults. So you can, it reports on viruses and banned. They're the default. But then what you can do, allow users to release spam. That's the default. But you can tick content filter in here, so end users can then release those as well. And you can allow users to delete, to add to allow lists and block lists for each of those aspects. So demarc, content filter, banned attachment, virus, and spam. They're not all on by default. So what you can do is in the quarantine settings advanced tab, you can select what you want your end users to be allowed and not to be allowed. Always be careful doing things like that as well, because it's all about security. So always kind of think. I always try to think of the worst case scenario of someone releasing a mail that you really don't want to be releasing. So always err on the side of caution and make sure you are comfortable with what you're allowing there as well.
Perfect. Nick is just wondering, if you want to, if you've got a high number of valid emails that are being marked as spam, what score would you recommend for SpamTitan to be set at?
Yeah, so the default threshold is 5, and that's been correlated for years. And we when we release new spam tests like we showed there, when we're running updates, you can see every test has a different score from 0.001 up to 10, whatever it might be. So we build those around that default threshold of 5. But if you are seeing the aspects like this, there's a few things I'd recommend. Before editing the spam threshold, what I'd recommend doing is your Bayesian database. This is the auto-learning database within SpamTitan that learns about your mail, because everybody's email flow is different. I've been saying for years that one person's clean mail is another person's spam mail, or one person's spam mail is another person's clean email. A clear indicator of that would be, say, newsletters. Some people love to get them, some people despise them. I'm indifferent about them. It depends who's sending them. So what I'd recommend there is your Bayesian database might be poisoned, which can happen. Especially if end users are, say, releasing mail they shouldn't be releasing, or whatever reason that's happened. So what I'd recommend doing first of all would be to come to the anti-spam engine settings tab and expire your Bayesian database. So that won't get rid of all the tokens or all the learning. It'll get rid of older tokens, and that will help you in this case. But if you do want to tweak the score, which is perfectly fine as well. So the score you can see here, it's at the domain level here, it's at the end user as well, but the domain level will push down to the end users. So it's a default threshold of 5. So see here, consider mail spam when greater than. So if you want to tweak that, so the lower the number, the more strict you're becoming. The higher the number, the looser you're becoming. So to find where you feel would be optimal, come to reporting and history. Under mail filters, select score and go in a range. So if I said 4.5, 4.8 and click apply. So there's nothing there. Or if I go to 5 and I lower this to 4, and I'd keep doing that and I keep editing. And what I always recommend is going, so 0.1. And you see there, so you keep editing that score until you look at this mail and you're saying, okay, and what I'd also recommend, is just clean mail. So click apply and you're saying, okay, all these clean mails here, I feel that they should be marked as spam, and everything here is spam. So what you can change your default threshold to is the lower number here. So you're saying anything that scores above that, I would just want blocked. So you're tweaking that score there. And it's the same vice versa. If you want to go a higher number, say 5, you're starting at 5 and you're going up to, say, 6, click apply. Again, it should be the lower number in here. So whatever you want to do, whatever the lower number in here is, that's what you'd edit the default threshold to be.
Brilliant. That's great, Derek. I think the next question you've already answered previously. Is there any way to sort by 2 in the admin quarantine?
Yeah, so at the moment, not from a click aspect, but you can from the search. So in the search field, you can put in the recipient address in there. Yeah, absolutely.
Great. In content filtering, is there an order of execution? For example, can you block an extension and then allow a specific file name with that extension?
There is, okay, so attachment filtering. So if I come here to kind of filtering and attachments, so there isn't a particular order, but what it will do is it will, if the allow would say precede the block. So if you have an allow in here for a file name, so it might be, let's just take for example, which you probably would never do, is allow a VB script. But if there was a .vb, but it was called Derek.vb, you could add in the filter name in here for Derek.vb, and always, little tip, always click apply at the bottom in here. You might add to the interface and come off it, but if you don't click apply, it'll stay in the interface, but it doesn't get wrote to file. So please do click apply after making edits on this page. So what will happen there is Derek.vb would be allowed, but all other VBs will be blocked.
Brilliant. Great. Pit Amber is just asking how to block an email sent from unknown Gmail ID without any body content or content.
So you want to block an unknown email from Gmail with no content.
Without any body or content.
It's a lot of the time that would be blocked, but it's a difficult one because there's no spam content within the email. It's coming from Gmail, so it's a valid sending domain. There's nothing in the headers that would indicate being a bad mail, unless the to and the from, there was some fishy things going on and the headers would be blocked. There's very little to trigger on in those emails, so they can be tough to block. Wouldn't recommend blocking Gmail outright either, because a lot of mail is sent and valid mail is sent and received over that. Even business mail, which some people might find surprising. So it is very difficult because there isn't much to block there from a system. So it can be difficult. But if you do have examples, please do pass them on to our support team. But they can be very difficult because there's nothing really to go on to block. That would be a very tough one to block.
Perfect. So Dwayne is saying here that she doesn't have some of these tabs in her environment. Would that likely be because she's on a different version of the product?
It may be that you're on our what we call our share cloud aspect. So we manage a lot of these aspects for you. This interface that I'm showing here would be a private cloud and our gateway version. If you're on our share cloud aspect, what you may be seeing is, if I come here you'll be seeing the domain group administrator. So if I come to admins, domain group administrator, and drill down here, this may be what you're seeing. So all these settings are still in the back end, but we manage all of that for you. So that's most likely what it is.
Perfect. So it doesn't mean there's anything wrong or anything like that. It's just different.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. So Miguel is just wondering, he's saying he works for an MSP. So we have several customers using the spam filter. Are there features coming that would allow the admin make changes per client versus global? Example would be like quarantine report schedule. Different schedules with different.
So what we can do, Miguel, is if you reach out to your account manager or your customer success manager or your renewals, whatever phase you're at, we can share the roadmap with you. There's no problem there at all. And that will go for everybody on the call. There's no problem there. That'll go for everybody, not just Miguel, that'll be for everybody. We can share the roadmap with you, absolutely. There is more and more going to the customer level all the time. So a lot of that is already in there and we're bringing more into it all the time. So what I'd recommend there, Miguel, is to, if you manage the relationship with ourselves, feel free to reach out and we can to your customer success or your AE, and we can share the roadmap, no problem at all. I believe we did a roadmap webinar recently as well, wasn't there, Catherine, I think?
We did. So if you want to actually just send an email to customer success at titanhq.com. If you just want to send that through, I'll get that out to you, so don't worry about that. So yeah, there's a few people saying that their interface is different, so you've covered that, I think, Derek. So it's just shared versus private cloud.
Yeah, exactly.
What would be the main difference of content filtering versus filter rules?
Good question. Good question. So if I come here, filter rules. So content filtering and filter rules. So pattern filters. So pattern filters are, say, block and allow on different aspects of the mail, so the body and the header. So they block or allow is pretty much what's happening there with the pattern filters. Also, the pattern filters happen at a later stage of the mail processing within SpamTitan. Content filters are where you can take different actions on emails. So it'd be very similar. Again, you'd select the contents or what you want to select, but you can take different actions on emails inbound and outbound. So you can delete a mail, redirect to another relay, redirect to another user, bounce the mail, allow quarantine, BCC somebody, and so on, inbound and outbound. So the main difference is the content filter happen very early in the mail processing aspect, and you can take different actions on the triggered email. The pattern filter is, the way to think of it is you're creating your own spam test, your own spam rule. That's the way to think about a pattern filter. But the content filter is where you're creating a filter to take a particular action on a mail.
Perfect. So Brian he's saying this might be a feature request, but he's going to ask the question, so I'll go ahead here. This may be another feature request, but when I click allow, it automatically releases the email. However, when I click block, why does it not also go ahead and delete the email? Is there a better way I should be reviewing quarantines? So just, is there a better way of doing that?
Yeah, it's a good question, Brian. So when you click allow, what you're doing is, yeah, you're releasing the mail because you want to allow that email, and you're adding it to your allow list. When you delete a mail or you block an email, it doesn't release, obviously. Delete will delete the mail. And what block will do is it'll block that sender from that point on. When a mail is deleted like that, there is a system level cleanup that's ran at 1 a.m. server time each day that just removes all deleted email. If you've blocked the mail, it's not deleting it, which is a good point. We could put a link to delete it from there and for it to be cleared out like that. But if you've blocked, it's just blocked. It won't be received in quarantine reports anymore, and it'll be auto removed as well. When you block a blocked mail is not quarantined anymore. A blocked mail is just dropped and not quarantined from that point onwards.
Okay. So Justine is wondering, is there some kind of a report to see suspicious emails that have been sent? So, for example, if an analyst wanted to analyze them.
Yeah, this is a very good question. This kind of leads into what I mentioned earlier, our new product that's coming out very shortly, SpamTitan, that will be plugged into your Office 365 and viewing that to see if anything going through. And we're working on remediation that it can be removed as well. But there will also be, we're very close to having a more robust Outlook plugin as well. So users can submit those to you and they give you your alert, and you can analyze those and you can remove those from everybody's inboxes. So it's a very good question. It is very close to fruition to be there at the
Brilliant.
moment. So yeah, it's watch the space, I suppose I'd have to say there.
Great. So Alexandro is wondering, is there a way to exempt alternate domains for display name impersonation? So right now, the user policy management only works for the domains that the organization owns. So he's saying there are times when we have people send emails to themselves from their personal addresses, and those would be blocked. I have a workaround using pattern filtering, but would like to know if there is something simpler I should be doing.
Yeah, it's well done. Is what I would say there is well done. That's exactly what I would recommend doing as well, or adding the sender's email address to that recipient's allow list as well. That is the best process to do in there.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Ryan is just wondering, Derek, is there any type of pattern filter that could be applied for empty messages? We have seen recent phishing campaigns with images that contain various M365 images, sign-ins, etc. When we do a support ticket, they suggest pattern filter based on a keyword in the subject.
Hmm.
Um, but these vary
Yeah,
over time.
yeah, it's a good that's the kind of the second one we've been asked about empty emails, maybe with just a signature and different aspects like
Yeah,
that. So I'd say we'll bring that to the team internally and see, because exactly what we've said earlier on and what you said there,
yeah,
that's of course that would be the best course of action in there. But that's the second question we've had
yeah.
about empty emails. So it's definitely something we'll bring to the team in here, and that's the huge benefit of these webinars, is we get to answer your questions, but we get to see the patterns in the questions being asked as well to bring to the team internally. So it's a great two-way learning experience and knowledge sharing. So absolutely, myself and Catherine will bring that to the team internally about the empty emails.
I don't know if you're going to know this one off the top of your head, Derek, but
Mhm.
again, Ryan, I can send you on a roadmap if you want. Um, is there anything on the roadmap when it comes to geo-blocking to have an explicit allow list versus having to add, every country to a block list?
Mm.
A different way of doing it.
Yeah, different way of doing it. I don't know off the top of my head.
I
I'd
don't
have to
either.
I'd ask the
Yeah,
product
so
team or look at
yeah,
that.
okay.
Yeah, sorry, Ryan.
I can go back to them and ask that one.
Yeah, I do know there's work going on in geo blocking, so but we'll find out for you, Ryan.
Cool. Haroon is wondering, can the quarantine report setting be adjusted to individual company level?
Not at the moment. Not at the moment, Harun. No, not at the moment. We do have a request in for that, so feel free to put in a request for it as well, because the more people requesting the same aspect, obviously the higher in priority list it should come as well. So not at the moment, but please do put in a feature request for that with the team.
So I think Dwayne is saying here that she has both a cloud and an on-prem. So she's saying she uses SpamTitan for 365 environment, but she notices that the SPF check-ins on the on-prem have some configurations you can adjust, but in the 365, she can't make any SPF check changes. That's because we manage those, obviously, Derek, is it?
Yeah, so I'd say one is the gateway version, so
Yeah,
you've got all of this. The other is
the
the share
on-prem, yeah,
cloud, and we manage the global settings within there for you.
perfect.
Mm.
Um, Yeah, I think Rob is making the same point. Like some of the tabs you're referring to do not appear on the cloud product, but that would be don't appear in the private cloud, is it, Derek?
On the
Share
share
cloud,
cloud
sorry.
aspect. Yeah, yeah,
Specifically the settings tab.
yeah, 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 exactly. It would be a level, but we'd look after all the global settings, because it's a SaaS platform. So we'd look after all the global settings,
Yeah,
whereas users can look after your domains and your users and your
yeah.
reporting and your quarantine and aspects. Yeah.
Uh, so Dixon is saying he gets a lot of back emails, BC emails. How
Oh yeah.
best should he handle these?
How best should I handle these? I keep adding the domain to the block. What I'd recommend there, Dixon, is if you open a case with our support team, and what always helps is examples like this and a few examples. So we've got a good data set to work with, and we'll work with you to get that. It's very hard to say that there's a number of things that can be done, but what suits one person may not suit another. So our support team will
Perfect.
work with you on that. So if you open a support case and attach maybe 2, 3, 4 examples, as many as you have is great. The more the better, and we can get really granular on it, and the support team can help you out there, no problem.
Great. So Alexandra was just wondering, when you're putting in headers in either pattern filtering or content filtering, are multiple headers treated as an and or as an or? So we'd say when he says and inverted commas, he means filters need to match all specific headers, or where it's an or, any of the specific headers.
Yeah, so when what you can do there is when you go matches multiple rules, you can select that. So it's an and or. You actually can select and or if you're adding a multiple pattern. So the choice is yours. You can select either, whichever you want, an and or an or. If it's individual, if it's a number of individuals, it's all and. So it should trigger this and this and this. But if you add one pattern filter that matches multiple rules, you can select whether it's an and or an or.
Perfect. So Haroon is saying that he doesn't see outbound email showing in SpamTitan, but that's because most of our customers would be inbound only, I think, Derek, wouldn't they? And outbound is something is on top of that.
Correct. It'd be a
Yeah.
specific configuration. Yeah, absolutely.
So if that was something he wanted to add, would that be through support or?
Yeah. So it would depend on the platform you're in use. If it's gateway, you can add in. So it's pretty much what you need to do. So private cloud and gateway on system setup, mail relay, and outbound. You would add the sending IPs. So you're sending mail server IPs in here. If you're Office 365, let us know. We can add aspects in here to allow the Office 365 IPs, but only limit them to your domains, and so it's not an open relay for 365. And you would change your SPF record or edit your SPF record, and you can point your smart host to send the mail through SpamTitan. If you're on a shared cloud platform, which is the aspect that has the lower number of tabs here, this won't be visible to you. But again, if you contact your AE or support, we can get that set up for you as well, no problem. Once outbound is flowing through your SpamTitan server, you will see it in reporting and history as well. What I always recommend with outbound is outbound email. Email outbound like that is a minefield. It really is. So in fairness to Office 365, they going outbound from 365 is perfectly fine. But if you do have specific requirements about additional filtering on top of that, absolutely we can do that too.
Brilliant. Regarding content filtering, can this be done on individual client level?
Not at the moment. Not at the moment. That is a global setting at the moment.
Great. Now, I don't know. I think Dwayne is referring to a previous question, so I don't know. She's saying we're getting sent QR codes to scan in PDFs. Is there any way that can be scanned? Getting sent QR
QR
codes
codes.
to
Oh,
scan
okay.
in PDFs.
Yeah. So we obviously look for viruses and different aspects like
Yeah.
that with the in attachments, but we don't view. We don't. Yeah. We have a sandbox that would detonate attachments as well, and if there's any macros or anything like that, it should be blocked and everything. But for aspects like that, we wouldn't. So that would. It's a good one though. It'll be a good one to put in as a feature request as well.
Great. And just from Dwayne as well. So just I think it's I think what you were just talking about there, Derek, about what, things that we do. So if I needed something changed in my cloud managed environment, do I need to contact support to get a change?
Oh, yeah. So do you have any idea if
The
we'll be
idea.
able to make the changes in our own cloud platforms in the future instead of being managed? Yeah, Dwayne, what I would recommend there, Dwayne, is obviously we've got different offerings in there. Again, reach out to your sales representative or call into the sales line and aspects like that, and we can have a conversation about maybe having you on the private cloud or different aspects like that where you get the full system like this. See, a lot of these settings, because it's a SaaS systems, a lot of these are global settings. So any edits to here would apply to everybody on the systems as well. So they need to be reviewed and made sure it won't have any negative impact on people there as well. So what I'd recommend, Dwayne, is maybe contact CS, as we said earlier on as well. We can bring you through a demonstration of the private cloud and go through kind of a needs requirements with yourself as well. And we can take it from there. So Dwayne, we'll either, Catherine,
Yeah, you can
reach out to Dwayne or Dwayne to reach into us. We can
just
do either
reply
way.
to the email. Yeah, if you just want to reply to the email that this invite was sent from, so CS at customer success. Sorry, CS at titanhq.com. I'll just say that again, CS at titanhq.com.
I see the next one in from Rob there. Our pattern filter contains criteria case sensitive. No, they're not. It's not case sensitive. It isn't. No, I had to I'm double checking myself there as well. So does sender verification include aliases? So what the sender verification does is, I'm presuming sender verification that is here, verified domain and outbound relay. So this will look for the domain. It'll verify that the domain is one of your domains listed here. And it must be listed. If it's an alias domain, you would need to add the alias domain in here as well.
Great. Okay. Does sender verification include aliases? No, I
Yeah,
mean
that's
what you
no, I
showed us
mean what you
earlier.
showed
Yeah.
us earlier. Sender verification. So maybe the recipient verification, Musrash, was it? Might just ask you to pop in a yes or no there. Was it the sender recipient verification? Yes, perfect. So does that aliases? Yes, it does. So what it'll do is it'll query the 365 and say, does this user, does this mailbox, does this account, does this email address exist in your environment? It'll come back with a yes or a no, and we will continue processing. If it's a yes, if it's a no, it'll be blocked. Great, thanks. Yeah, no problem, Mr. Ash, no problem.
Brilliant.
That was a quick hour.
That was uh, really, really good. Like, great to see so many questions coming through. So we managed to cover an awful lot, I think, there in 56
Mm,
minutes. Um, so yeah, so that's
yeah.
great, guys. I think we've got through all the questions with 4 minutes to spare. Um, so as Derek was saying, if there's anything like in relation to the roadmap or wanting a copy of the roadmap, um, the email that the email address that the initial email invite for this session came from. If you just want to reply that back to that email address, it's cs@titanhq.com. If you'd like a copy of our roadmap, or if there's something else, I know Derek was saying as well, for maybe a conversation about our new UI as well.
Yeah, yeah. What I'd say is keep an eye on the webinar emails and schedule in there, because we do these Ask Me Anythings, we do onboarding and implementation, we do roadmaps for each product as well. Some have even had our CTO appear on these talking as well, and you get direct contact with everybody here. So do keep an eye on any of those and feel free to join them. It's great. I really enjoy these as well myself. So it's fantastic to get the opportunity to get up like this and talking to customers.
Brilliant.
Perfect. So Rob, I see our Ask Me Anything sessions are regular schedule. Yeah, this is probably the second one we've done on SpamTitan alone. We've done them on our other products as well. So yeah, absolutely keep an eye out for the schedule coming out.
I think
Yeah,
we've won. I think we've won next week, Derek, on our ArcTitan
on ArcTitan. Very
product.
good.
Yeah, so
Very
we're
good.
trying to do them for all. So just kind of have an open forum. We're using them as well, as good kind of training for our internal team, so they get a good sense of it's just a good example
Mm,
of what
yeah.
the different variety of questions are. So it serves many purposes really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see, Musarash, you've asked there, can we do a specific webinar on SPF and DMARC? Great idea. Great idea. And please do, the more requests we have on different types of webinars, absolutely, absolutely keep them coming, and we'll be more than happy to do them.
Brilliant. Great. Thanks everybody. Thanks for taking the time out of your busy days, and I hope you all found it valuable, and I hope we addressed all the questions you had.
Yeah, thanks very
Have a
much.
good one. Thank you.
Have a great one. Thanks very much,
Cheers.
everybody.
Bye.